At Disney's recent Investor Day, several big announcements were made for all things Disney and Disney Plus, including some Marvel, Star Wars, and Pixar, and even some other Disney properties. Today, I'm going to be focusing on some of the announcements made only by Kevin Feige in regards to Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and giving my thoughts on each one, rather than getting into detail on all the other like Star Wars ones and things like that. They made a lot of announcements for a lot of Disney Plus shows and new movies coming up, so I'm going to be kind of tackling just the Marvel ones today. I will not be including the ones that just got a release date, like the shows we already knew about, such as WandaVision or the Loki series or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, things like that got, like, they revealed the release dates for them, but I'm not going to be covering those today. I'm just going to cover some of the new shows and movies that were announced by Kevin Feige at this event. So let's get started. First of all, the Disney Plus series known as Secret Invasion. It stars Nick Fury and Skrull leader Talos return in this one. Last time we saw them was in Spider-Man Far From Home, like during the end credit scene. So we know Nick Fury has been working with the Skrulls in some capacity. So now it looks like this show, I guess, revolves around a faction of Skrulls that have been infiltrating Earth for years. So it's kind of doing that Secret Invasion storyline from the comics. Honestly, though, I think the Secret Invasion of the Skrulls should have been incorporated into several movies, like several of the upcoming MCU movies, rather than a series on Disney Plus. I feel like it sort of takes away from the mystery behind it. Like, are these heroes actually Skrulls, or who is a Skrull that we may not have known was a Skrull, and things like that. And it ruins the big reveal that there are Skrulls out there that I guess are sort of the bad guy. They're not actually working with Fury. That they've gone rogue, I guess, is what I would say. It will be cool to see Nick Fury back in action again. And it is still Samuel L. Jackson playing the role, and Ben Mendelsohn will be Talos, just like in the Captain Marvel movie and in Spider-Man Far From Home. But I still think this should have been done at least in a movie somewhere down the line, rather than like on this show, and maybe even an Avengers movie. Like, this feels like it should have been like a big Avengers worthy movie, and maybe it will turn into that out of this show, depending on how well the show does, I guess. But that's how I feel about the show right now. Next up is the Disney Plus series called Ironheart. It revolves around a new character that will be introduced to, named Riri Williams, who is actually a genius inventor that creates the most advanced suit of armor since Tony Stark. I'm not sure how I feel about this one just yet. On one hand, it almost feels like they're trying to replace Tony Stark by giving us a new character to fill his shoes, so that they can sort of continue with that Iron Man-like hero, which may not be a bad thing, but on the other hand, it might be a good thing to have a new Iron Man introduced before the next big Avengers event. I mean, he's not exactly going, or she's not actually going to be an Iron Man character, but it's like that Tony Stark Iron Man sort of character that will team up with the Avengers. Like, replacing Tony Stark, those are big shoes to fill, yes, but I feel like it may need to happen. Also, though, I don't know if it does. I don't know if we need another tech-savvy genius to be part of the MCU, but I guess we'll see how it goes when the show finally comes out. I believe they said that one will be released in 2021, just like the last one I talked about, the Secret Invasion show is going to be released in 2021. A lot of these shows are coming out next year, so I'm looking forward to that. That's a lot of things to tackle for Phase 4 of the MCU, a lot of these shows that bleed into the movies, so I'm really looking forward to this. And this is one of those shows, I mean, it'll probably do well. I'm not sure how it's going to go, so we'll see. Alright, so in this show, Armor Wars on Disney Plus, Don Cheadle is back in the role of James Rhodey Rhodes, also known as War Machine. or Iron Patriot if you saw Iron Man 3. Basically, the show revolves around Rhodey trying to find some of Tony Stark's tech that is stolen by enemy forces. And it kind of answers that question, like what would happen. Like was Tony's biggest fear, was that what happens when his tech falls in the wrong hands. Like we saw when he accidentally created Ultron and it went bad. How we all saw how that turned out in Avengers: Age of Ultron. And we have seen throughout, like, sort of what happens when a bad guy gets Tony's tech. Especially it affected Spider-Man the most, it seems, like with Mysterio and everything. This show seems like it's going to be interesting, and it'll maybe have a little bit of comedy behind it, probably. But I don't necessarily think it's going to affect the future of the MCU, like some of the other shows like WandaVision or Falcon and the Winter Soldier do. Although we will get to see Rhodey, like what Rhodey's been up to since Tony's death. I'm pretty sure this probably takes place after Endgame, because all of these are moving forward from Endgame, so maybe we'll get to see some of that, like how he's affected by the loss of his friend. But now he's trying to get some of Tony's tech back to keep it out of the hands of bad people. So I think it'll be a fun show. I'm not sure where they'll go with it, like if it's actually going to have like I said, any effects on the future of the MCU. It's not really going to play into anything big. I don't think it's just going to we just get to see more of War Machine for a little bit, because if Falcon and Winter Soldier can get their own show and they were friends of Captain America, why not have a friend of Iron Man's, right? Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, this was like a really shocking news to me when I read this. It's the third AntMan movie. It's called AntMan and the Wasp: Quantumania. So the original cast from the first two Ant-Mans, you have Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, you have Evangeline Lilly and all them are in it as well. And then they have added Catherine Newton as Cassie Lang, who's Scott Lang's daughter, so it's the older version of her after Endgame. And Jonathan Majors will be playing the villain Kang the Conqueror. Given the name of the movie's title, it seems that there is going to be some more like quantum realm traveling in the third Ant-Man movie. However, the biggest news out of the announcement of the movie, is the arrival of Kang the Conqueror. Now, when I first heard this, I got excited to see Kang the Conqueror make his debut, because he's like a big-time Avengers villain in the comic books. However, I also feel like them announcing his appearance this early and even making an announcement that he's going to be in this movie at all makes it a little less suspenseful to me. I really hope they don't make Kang just like a one-off that gets defeated by Ant-Man and the Wasp. And like we never see him again, or he gets trapped back in the quantum realm or something like that. Because Kang should be an Avengers level threat, and I hope that's where they're planning on going with him following the events of this movie. If I were to like make a prediction of what might happen, maybe Kang escapes back into the quantum realm and comes back in the future, like a future Avengers movie. I feel like it would have been better, just like with the Skrull invasion that I talked about earlier, that maybe they should have had Kang showing up at the end of some of the movies, just like they did with Thanos, and establish him as the next big threat. I'm not really sure, like now that they've announced this, I don't know who's going to be the big threat. Is it somebody that comes out of WandaVision and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, like this sort of multiverse hopping stuff? Or is it going to be like Kang the Conqueror, or even Galactus, which, since they own Fox properties now, but it's hard to tell who the next big Avengers villain is going to be. There's not going to be an Avengers movie in Phase 4 anyways, but just the announcing Kang the Conqueror is going to be in this movie seems like it's just trying to draw people to watch the third movie, rather than like, oh, here's the shocking twist, here's the villain. Like, all they could have said was there's going to be a new huge threat for Ant-Man to take down, like, so stay tuned and watch the movie, but I don't know, I kind of feel like it ruins Kang the Conqueror's momentum as a future, the big bad guy in the MCU, just a little tiny bit, but that's just my opinion. Other than that, the movie's probably going to be a lot of fun, just like the first two Ant-Man movies were. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is actually the last thing that was announced at the event, I guess, at least on the Marvel side of things. There's finally going to be a Fantastic Four movie in the MCU. It'll be directed by John Watts, the guy who's directed the Tom Holland Spider-Man films within the MCU as well. This will be the third time we've actually seen the Fantastic Four, or the fourth time we've seen the Fantastic Four on the big screen, and hopefully this time, it goes how it should. It being directed in the MCU means it's probably going to be a big time movie. It's going to be a lot of fun and a lot better than the original Fantastic Four movies because it's in good hands now. Just like I'm sure the X-Men and the mutants from that universe are going to be handled really well as well going forward. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the Fantastic Four movie as well. I am excited to see where it goes and the potential villains that might come along with it as well, such as Doctor Doom and even Galactus, who has been rumored as who might be the next big villain for the Avengers. So who knows? We'll see what happens with all these characters going forward. But yeah, I mean, the Fantastic Four should be big characters, and I'm sure it'll be fun to see them teaming up with the Avengers, whoever's left on the Avengers going forward. So I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm sure you guys are as well. So there you go, guys. Those were my thoughts on the new Phase 4 announcements that came from that event. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. What are you looking forward to the most in Phase 4 of the MCU, whether it's one of the movies or the TV shows? And be sure to like and subscribe for more videos just like this. We'll probably talk about all the Star Wars Disney Plus series that were announced. So check back in for that somewhere down the line as well. And take care, everybody, and stay safe out there.
Subscribe.